Jonathan Smith woke up to a sharp pain in his wrists. He opened his eyes but couldn't see anything in the darkness. He tried to move his hands but realized they were tied. Jonathan was strapped to a chair, but not just any chair. This was an electric chair. In panic, he started breathing harder. His mind raced to find answers about how he ended up here. The last thing he remembered was leaving the bar late at night. Then everything went blurry. Suddenly, the light came on, blinding him. A man in a black suit, wearing a mask, stood before him. His eyes glinted coldly from behind the mask. "Good morning, Jonathan," the man said, his voice cold as the wind. "Welcome to your final judgment." "Who are you?" "What's going on?" Jonathan shouted, struggling to break free. "You know very well why you're here," the man continued. "So many years avoiding justice. But you can't escape your past." Jonathan tried to understand what he meant. What had he done? He was a simple man with a regular office job, a family, living an ordinary life. What could he have done that was so terrible? "I don't know what you're talking about," he shouted, but the man just smiled sadly. "Let me help you remember," he said, and pressed a button. Suddenly, electricity surged through Jonathan, making him scream in pain. At the same time, his mind was filled with images from the past. He saw himself young, drunk, behind the wheel. He saw the crash, the blood on his hands. He remembered abandoning that car and running away, leaving death and despair behind. "Do you remember now?" the man asked. "You killed a family, Jonathan. You destroyed their lives and hid behind your fake life. But justice always catches up." Jonathan cried, feeling the guilt he had hidden all these years. But he couldn't accept it. He didn't want to die. "Please forgive me. I was young and stupid. I didn't know what I was doing," he screamed. "It's not for me to decide," the man replied. "It's for those who suffered." The man stepped aside, and Jonathan saw a woman enter the room. Her face was etched with pain and hatred. It was the mother of the family he had destroyed, Mrs. Miller. The man in the mask said, "What is your decision?" "I want him to feel the same pain we felt," she said coldly. "I want justice." "You heard the verdict," Jonathan, the man in the mask, said. "Your punishment is death." He pressed the button again, and this time the electricity surged through Jonathan's body, filling every cell with unbearable pain. His vision began to darken, and the last thing he heard was the man's voice. "You got what you deserved." When it was over, the man in the mask took it off, revealing his face. He was a detective who had been investigating that crash all these years. He silently approached Mrs. Miller and hugged her. Together they left the room, leaving Jonathan in silence and darkness. In this story, Jonathan received his punishment, and justice, though harsh, ultimately prevailed.